30 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the regular meeting of the Morganton City Council, December the 4th, 2003. Renee, do we have anyone signed up for public comments? If not, I'll ask Alan Thompson with Thompson, Price, Scott, and Adams to come forward and give us an audit report, please.
Well, good evening to everyone. You should have a copy of a presentation summary here in front of you. I'm going to run through a few things here. Kind of housekeeping items I've got to do. The main thing you hire us as an outside or independent audit firm to do is issue an opinion on the financial statements as a whole. We issue an unmodified report or a quote-unquote clean report. There were no findings. There's a couple things I want to talk about at the end just to clarify, but other than that, everything was good. On page 1 of the presentation summary here, there's 3 things in those first 3 paragraphs about qualitative aspects. It's accounting policy, accounting estimates, and disclosures in the financial statements, and we were good with all of those, and we appreciate the effort that the town staff does in doing a good job with those. On page 2, there were no difficulties encountered in performing the audit, no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. Management did provide us with a representation letter dated November 21st. We're unaware that management consulted the outside accountants, auditors, etc. Again, no findings, issues. I'll talk about a couple of things that are kind of matters of concern here in just a moment from the LGC standpoint, but not necessarily from mine. On page 4, what we attempt to do here, and I'm not saying I put all the key numbers here from the audit report, but we attempt to pull some of those key numbers and then put the 4 prior years' report numbers there beside it, so that you're not just looking at a fund balance number out there. You get to see what the 4 previous years were, so you get a feel for trend, etc., if you will. And so you can see total fund balance there available in your general fund is $37,807,000. If you were to go back to 2019, you see that number is $19,773,000. So a really nice trend there and a significant increase. The unavailable fund balance is $6,089,000. The restricted is $11,174,000. The general fund expenditures, including transfers out, less lease and installment purchases, $25 million. The fund balance available as a percentage is 126.84, which is very strong. Unassigned fund balance is 26.4, and unassigned fund balance as a percentage is 105.74. You see revenues over and under expenses before contributions and transfers in the general fund is a positive $2.583 million. The water fund's $558,000. Wastewater is $1.6 million. Electric fund is $1.2. Cable is $1,037,000, and other governmental funds is $2,269,000. I'm not going to go through and read all these fixed assets, accumulated depreciation, and cash. I'm going to skip down to the cash, if you will. And you can see the cash in the general fund is $35,492,000. If you look back to 19, that number is $18,964,000. The cash in your water fund's $13,384,000. Wastewater's 9.5. The electric fund is $19,350,000. Cable fund's $837,000, and other governmentals is $6,029,000. All of those look real strong and look in a very positive trend. The fund balance again in the general fund there is $37,807. Net position in your water fund, which is basically the same thing as your fund balance, is $28,078,000. Wastewater is $39,014,000. Electrical fund is $32.4. And then cable is 4.5, and fund balance other governmentals is $4,649,000. If you'd be kind enough to flip over, you can see your property tax rates haven't changed in the 5 years. Your collection percentage, a little bit off, 96.96%, still very strong. Total property valuation, they're at $2,122,000, and net levy at $11,316,000. You can see the debt there at $5.8 million. And then in the governmentals and the business type activities, it's 11.6. Then a breakdown, I won't read all those, of both your general fund revenues and general fund expenditures there. If you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 6, you can see the nice trend on the bar graph there on the top in blue for your total fund balance, with restricted and assigned there in red. On the bottom, you can see the chart there where you're in blue, and how strong that is compared to the group weighted average. The group weighted average is getting harder and harder to come by unless you do a lot of work on yourself, because LGC decided they were going to do it everybody over 100 million, everybody under 100 million, so group weighted average doesn't have the comparison it used to have, if you will. On the top of page 7, you can again see how strong your unassigned fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures is. And on the bottom down there, you see the revenues over and under expenses before transfers, with all being positive and all positive for all the years shown, which is very good. And on page 8, you see cash and accumulated depreciation there for water, sewer, and wastewater fund. All looks good. The same thing is true on page 9 at the top with the electric fund. On the bottom, you see 2 pie charts for cash balances and fund balances. Total cash balances being $69.5 million and total fund balances being $132 million. The only thing I would say that distorts that just slightly on your net position in the fund balances side of that is you got all these fixed assets that you don't have any intention of selling, so it kind of inflates net fund balance or net position, if you will. On the top of page 10, you see your property tax rates there, and when it was available, the group weighted average. And on the bottom, you see collection percentage compared to the statewide average and the group weighted average there when it was applicable. On page 11, you see a breakdown of your general fund revenue. This is it's not totally unusual, but to have ad valorem taxes being less than 50% is a real positive, because it means you're not totally dependent on them, but it's still very important. With sales tax playing a major role, which is great. And on the bottom, you see public safety, general government, and cultural and recreational being the largest expenses. And I'm going to do my best on page 12 to explain 2 things that I might not necessarily agree with, but are considered financial performance indicators of concern by the LGC. The first one has got to do with transfers from the electric fund. They use the North Carolina Eastern Power Agency's guidelines as opposed to the policy that you have. So when we put stuff into their spreadsheet, these things kick out, and I have to say this, so that's why I've had a little bit of sarcasm, so forgive me for that. Because they are legitimate concerns from a very generic standpoint, which is what they're about. They're trying to put together one spreadsheet that suits 100 counties and all the municipalities in the state of North Carolina, which is very difficult to do in one spreadsheet. So just realize that, and that's why I had a little bit of sarcasm again. I'm sorry about that. So this doesn't really apply if you want to know the truth, because you're following your policy. The spreadsheet was designed for the North Carolina Eastern Power Agency policy. So that's number one. This number two is about if your accumulated depreciation is greater than 50% of the fixed assets, then they consider that something you should be monitoring. You are monitoring that because you have ongoing projects, etc. But they want to make you aware of that, if you will. So consider yourself aware of that. I think you're in good shape in both of those, but it is something that I'm required to say. I'm happy to answer any questions about either, and I applaud them for trying to put together a spreadsheet that alerts people of things that they should be aware of.
Council, have any questions for Alan? Alan, I know you've done 2 already today and got another one tonight to do, so we appreciate you being here and a great job.
Thank you for allowing me to be first, but thank you for allowing our firm to do the audit. If you ever have questions about anything, you're always welcome to call. If you happen to call the office and I'm not there, tell them to give you my cell number. I'll get you an answer to your question. And we appreciate you allowing us to do the audit.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you so much.
Next on our agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. If you all rise, I'll have Chris Hawkins to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'd like to ask Reverend Daniel Gutierrez to come forward with the New Life Church of God for an invocation. Daniel, thank you so much for being here.
It's an honor to be here again. Let's pray. Father God, we gather here today to lift up in your presence every board member and our mayor, Ronnie Thompson, because they are about to take important steps and decisions for the benefit of our community. We ask you that you give them knowledge and wisdom to do what is right and good for all the people that live here in Morganton. Make us to turn to and honor you as the source of our wisdom and power. And finally, remind us that the Christmas season is a time to be blessed and be a blessing to all our children, because we are your children. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you so much. This time I'd like to call Senior Resident Superior Court Judge Robert C. Irvin forward to swear in our mayor and council members. I'll go first.
You would?
Y'all got we got a Bible there. You.
Yes, sir.
All right, and if you want to hold that, and Mayor Thompson, if you'll repeat after me. I
Ronnie Thompson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
and maintain
and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
as mayor
as mayor
of the city of Morganton,
of the city of Morganton.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations and thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much.
You want me to just hand them up?
Yes,
And then you got Chris.
Always the paper.
Chris,
Come on down.
come on down.
And you've seen the gig. All right. If you repeat after me, please. I
I, Chris Jernigan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
and maintain
and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of North Carolina,
of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
as council member
as council
of the city of Morganton,
of the city of Morganton.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations and thanks for doing this. y'all come on up. So if y'all will hold that. All right, you ready? I do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as council member of the city of Morganton, so help me God. Congratulations and thank you very much. It was great.
I'd like to give a chance for the newly sworn council members to make some comments. Chris, would you like to make any comments?
Mayor, thank you. Just want to say thank you to the citizens of Morganton for this honor to re-elect me to this position. It has truly been a privilege. I've learned a lot in my first term, and mostly what I've learned is that the city of Morganton is an amazing place with a tremendous staff and administration, and it is an honor to work with them and to try to help Morganton be a better place and help it grow. And it's also been an honor to work with my fellow councilman and mayor here, and I appreciate everyone who's been a part of making this possible.
Butch, would you like to make a comment?
I sure would. First of all, it's delightful to have an opportunity to have two of my grandkids.
Yeah.
The others should be coming in a minute. Chris, you hit the nail right on the head. It is an honor, and it is really wonderful to be a part of the team here and on this side of the audience out here. This is a great group of people that all have in mind making this a better place for everyone that lives here, and I am delighted to be a part of it. I also need to thank someone who's watching at home on TV who puts up with a lot of my being gone and has just been so supportive and would give anything to be able to be here. But think the world of you, gal. We'll be home soon.
Thank you, Butch. Again, I'd like to thank the citizens for voting. I thank those citizens who have given us input for Imagine 2040, which will direct some of our city for the next few years. I'd like to thank the members of council who serve on all the different committees, 6 or 7 different committees. And lastly, I'd like to thank the staff from the manager on down to our department heads. We just cannot get it done without their support and their guidance. So thank y'all so much, and we'll get on with the agenda. Thank you. Next, we have the election of Mayor Pro Tem. Do we have a nomination?
Yep, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Wendy Cato to continue serving as the Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a nomination. Do I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem. Next, we need to set our meeting dates and time. Do we need to vote on that? Okay. Normally it'd be 6 p.m. the first Monday of each month. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And I would note that that does not include July.
Okay, thank you. Next is the appointment of standing committees. In Finance Committee will be Ronnie Thompson and Chris Hawkins. Personnel will be Wendy Cato and Butch McSwain. Streets will be Wendy Cato and Chris Jernigan. Utilities, Chris Jernigan and Butch McSwain. And Legislative will be Butch McSwain and Chris Jernigan. Okay, those will be our committees for 2024. This time I'd like to introduce council. To my far right, Wendy Cato, Mayor Pro Tem, Chris Jernigan, City Council, Louis Vina, our city attorney. I'm Ronnie Thompson, your mayor. Sally Sandy, city manager. Butch McSwain, city council. Chris Hawkins, city council. Renee Carswell, our city clerk. And our interpreters for the deaf, Daniette Stillman Bridges and Ernest Williams IV. So, under public advocacy and issues, an announcement that the 2040 Imagine Morganton meeting will take place December the 14th at 5:30 to 7. This will be a joint meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council. No action will be taken by council at this meeting. Under upcoming events, we have an announcement. Let me get to it. Is that the new one?
No. New art in the hall.
New art in the hall.
Mhm.
And it is.
I have a copy of the new one.
Nope.
I don't have the new one, so. Okay.
Please, if you'll read it.
Thank you,
Thank you, Nate. Okay, moving along, the Holiday Farmers Market. It's going to be Saturday, December the 9th, from 10 to 2 p.m. at 111 North Green Street. The Christmas Parade for 2023, which is going to be the Sounds of the Holidays, is going to be Tuesday, December the 5th at 6 p.m. At the Performing Arts Center. Thursday, December the 7th, is going to be Remember the Music of the Legendary Statler Brothers. On Sunday, December 17th, at 2 o'clock and at 6 o'clock is going to be World Ballet Series, The Nutcracker. That is not included in our season package. Okay. Next on our agenda is a change of city council meetings for January 2024. Do I have a motion from city council?
Motion to change the city council meeting date from January 1, 2024 to January 8, 2024.
Thank you, Wendy. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. North Carolina Power Agency, do we have any reports?
Yes, we do. We had elections for the Power Agency Board in November, and Whitney Brooks, who is a city council person in Lexington, was reelected to the board, and then John Stiver, who is in Newton, is the mayor pro tem there, was reelected to the board.
Thank you, Sally. Next on our agenda is consent. On the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 6 items. Sally?
We do. I would like to ask that you consider items A through E, the first 5, and that you consider removing F for more discussion. Do we have to take action to remove F?
Yes.
First, right?
What's the wish of council?
I'll make a motion to remove item F from the consent agenda.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Rest of the consent agenda, Sally?
Sure. So items A through E, the 5 items are minutes from the November 6th council meeting, tax releases in the amount of $68,955.90. There is a large revaluation in there for one of our local industries, and that was done through the county's appeals process. And then approval of a change order to our high-fill engineering contract for the Silver Creek Pump Station in the amount of $67,000, and that is for items that we have discovered now that we're back into this project that we need to do some redesign for. And then award of a contract for engineering services for Delivery 5's transformer relay and control panel replacement project, and that is in an amount not to exceed $30,000, and that's to Southeastern Engineering Services, our on-call engineer for electric. And then a budget amendment to recognize insurance receipts, $8,709.22, and those are for damages done to some vehicles and a fire station. And then that's it, because we're doing the next one later.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to
Thank you, Chris. To have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Sally, will you take up F?
I will. So you have an item before you, which is consideration of a budget amendment, which is to transfer proceeds from the sale of property on Meeting Street to our capital reserve fund. And that's the fund where we accumulate dollars for special transactions and things that happen. We started it when we sold the South Mountain watershed property. And you have set that up, and we use that to draw on for capital projects that we're doing. And so in selling the property on Meeting Street for the future development of a housing project that we've been talking about and that you had a presentation about last month, would ask that you consider the budget amendment when we close on that property to transfer those funds to the capital reserve fund to be used later at the council's decision in a project. What we want, I still would like for you to consider adopting that budget amendment, but Louis would like to share with you that there's going to be a delay in the closing and the reason why.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You'll recall that at the last meeting, council approved the development agreement for the transaction with the group called 400 Meeting Street LLC for the purchase and development of the housing project on the Meeting Street properties. And at that point, I believe I said, and we all anticipated, that there would be a closing within a week after that. That has not happened, and it will not now be happening for some time. The buyer requested and had an attorney perform a full title search on the property and discovered an issue with, or at least what they thought was an issue, with one of the 6 parcels that make up this property, all of which were acquired in the 1990s by the Redevelopment Commission, and when we folded the RDC that was transferred to the city. The problem is it has to do with the description of this particular lot, and it's nothing that anyone missed because it's been the same deed description since 1946. But their title searching attorney and their title insurance company felt that this was a problem that had to be dealt with. We thought that had been resolved by the city agreeing to sign an indemnity agreement with the title company. Unfortunately, the buyers, the investors who are supporting the buyer developer, wanted more than that, and they want that issue cleared up, which would require legal action. So they are not ready to close at this time. However, they still definitely want to proceed with the project. They have already deposited with their lawyer the full purchase price and have indicated that they see this as merely a temporary delay. They are continuing to develop their plans for the project, and in fact are meeting with the Development and Design Department about those. So, from the city's point of view, your only choices are either to tolerate a delay or to cancel the entire deal, which I don't think anyone wants to do. But the delay would be potentially some months. Filing this legal action and hopefully getting a judgment would, in my estimation, probably take 5 or 6 months. if it all went well, that is. So that's where that stands.
And they are, as Louis indicated, they're continuing, they've hired an architect, and the architect is continuing to work so that they're not losing time on this. They're continuing to invest money in order to get the plans and everything brought to us. I think a couple meetings ago we talked about when we did an extension in the development agreement.
And I should add too.
Just for perspective, we're talking about a $25 to $30 million project. We're not talking about a $150,000 project across the street. So there are a lot of steps and a lot of hoops and a lot of things. In talking with all of them, I don't think we feel that we are in any jeopardy at all of losing the project. And quite frankly, we don't have any money for the property today. So our risk at this point is time.
What's the wish of council?
I'll make a motion to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $425,000 to accept the transfer from the general fund for the sale of property, whenever that takes place, on Meeting Street to the Capital Reserve Fund.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Chris. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Next is consideration of a budget amendment to accept additional Dogwood Trust money funding for wastewater. Sally?
So we have several items coming up, so it's a good news night. While we may be a little frustrated that project's taking longer, we do have good news. Back when we bid the Highway 181 Boss Road Sewer project, which has been a huge project on our plate for several years, we had received some Dogwood Trust money to help pay for that. When we bid it, we were over budget by about $1.5 million. So staff did work with the low bidder and did some value engineering, got that cost down, and at the time we awarded the contract, you allowed us to budget additional dollars from our ARPA money and money from the wastewater fund to pay for the overage that was left. We reached out to Dogwood and said, you've already given us $1.7 million for this project. You don't happen to have any more money that you'd like to throw into it. And they said they had already distributed funding, but that at the end of the year, they would look at what was going on and they would reach back out. So they have, and they have reached back out and are giving us an additional $350,000 toward that project, which means they're in for more than $2 million, which is really nice. What that allows us to do is accept the $350, and then in order to do that, we will not have to use the wastewater money that we were going to use, and we will be able to put back part of the ARPA money for you to make a decision at a later date to help fund another project with that.
What's the wish of council?
Mr. Mayor, I always love to accept money, so I'll make a motion to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $350,000 to accept additional funding from Dogwood Trust grant funding for the Highway 181 sewer project.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Wendy. The ARPA money, this would go back into ARPA money. Do we have a deadline when we have to spend all the ARPA money?
So we have to award it contractually by December 31st of 2024, and we have to have it all spent by December 31 of 2026.
Okay, thank you.
So we still have time,
Okay.
but we're clipping away at it pretty well.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion Motion passes. Next is consideration of award to Baker Grading for Bethel Park Restoration Project and approval of a budget amendment. Sally?
Correct. So we are now starting the Bethel Park portion of the council meeting. So our first item, and it's all good news, is to award a contract to Baker Grading. So we have received bids finally on what we term Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the park restoration and the flood mitigation and the creek restorations, and also the replacement of the track, the asphalt track, walking trail that's out there. We received sealed bids on November the 16th. Development Design opened those. We got 4 bids. After reviewing them, the lowest responsible bid was submitted by Baker Grading, and they are from Old Fort in the amount of $1,559,867.50. You have a bid tab in your packet with all of the bids that were submitted. We were super pleased with this bid, by the way, and our engineer and some of our staff folks, we have some experience working with these folks and feel really good about their ability to do the project. At the same time, we need to do a budget amendment while we're awarding this to accept $500,000 in Part F money, which is state grant money that we knew we had received, and then appropriate $236,058 of city match, so that at this point we have over $2 million in grant funding, the city match dollars in, the Part F funding in order to complete the project.
Okay, I need a motion, 3-part motion, please.
Motion to award contract to Baker Grading and Landscaping of Old Fort, North Carolina, in the amount of $1,559,867.50 to complete the Bethel Park restoration. Also, a motion to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $500,000 accepting Part F matching funds for park improvements and appropriate remaining funds in the amount of $236,058, which is needed for the city match portion of the stream restoration project, and to authorize the mayor and/or city manager to execute such contract and any other necessary documents.
Thank you, Wendy. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? Butch?
Yeah, I want to jump up and down, and I hope that we can create an observation area for those of us who've been watching this for so many years to go out and watch some of this construction being done. Somewhere safe, somewhere where we can see it.
Sally, when do you anticipate some dirt being moved?
So we had thought probably January. Now it's looking like March, and that has to do with permitting and the Corps of Engineers and all of that. But it looks like March. So shutting down the park will be delayed, and we'll keep it open as long as we can. Look at Ryan shaking his head. Now we have the Morganton crews, as always, have some work to do to prepare for them to come in. So we will gauge all of that to when we think permits are coming in, back up that. We'll give notice as much as we can, and the park will be shut down for close to a year. So
I would ask the manager if she could find a safety vest and a hard hat for Councilman McSwain when he's on site.
Yes.
That would be possible.
we'll do that, and some
He will
steel-toe
be.
shoes.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is consideration of a MOU for the Environmental Enhancement Grant and approval of a budget amendment. Sally?
Yes, for this project, which, as we have talked before, is major. I mean, we're talking about a $4 million project to restore and redo this park. Staff has worked really hard to seek every source of money that is available and applied for an environmental enhancement grant. And this is the second year of that. We tried last year and were turned down, so we resubmitted again. And that is to assist with the flood mitigation at Bethel Park. We asked for $200,000 and we were awarded $150,000. So they have sent us that notification and a memorandum of understanding that we are adopting and the corresponding budget amendment to receive that money into the project fund as well.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to accept the memorandum of understanding for environmental enhancement to receive $150,000 in grant funding for restoration of Bethel Park and to approve a budget amendment in the amount of $150,000 and to authorize the mayor and/or city manager to execute such contract and any other necessary documents.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is consideration of award to Wildlands Engineering for Bethel Park construction, administration, and observation.
Did I tell you it was the Bethel Park portion of the meeting? So this is the last one of those items, and this is to award the contract to our consulting engineers who have been working with us from the beginning. And this is for 2 tasks, and you have the descriptions there. That will be construction administration, and there's a list of things in that. And then also the observation during that site inspections, continuing to work to make sure that we're complying in this project with all permitting, all that kind of stuff. And to have on-site supervision. Staff is recommending that we contract with Wildlands Engineering to do that. They have been involved from the beginning. We feel like they're on our on-call list as well. This is the way to meet the deadlines of spending the grant dollars that we've been awarded and to keep the project moving. It is for a total of $149,531.
What's the wish of council?
Since I'm so happy to accept some money, I ought to spend
Are you
some,
gonna
I
spend
guess,
it?
yeah. Enter motion to award contract to Wildlands Engineering, Inc. in the amount of $149,531 for Bethel Park construction / administration / observation, and to authorize the mayor and/or city manager to execute such contract and any other necessary documents.
Thank you, Butch. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is a budget amendment to appropriate retained earnings for the water and electric funds for easement purchases. Sally?
So you heard from our auditor tonight that we are in good financial condition in all of our funds, so now we're going to spend a little bit more money. So in the process of the development project and permitting and planning for the project going on at the corner of Highway 70 and Independence, which is underway, it was discovered that we have utilities located in that area for which we don't have an easement. We have had utilities in that area for 60 plus years. But in working it all out, the property owner felt like we needed to transfer some dollars for the value of those easements. So we are looking at $12,500 for water easements and $12,500 for electric easements. We did not plan to spend that, so we need a budget amendment in order to be able to fund that.
What's the wish of Louis?
I do need to just add, just to be clear, that the lines are there. These are water and sewer and electric lines. I would have to say legally there are easements, but they are not defined. There's no description of exactly where they are.
They're just
how
where
wide
they are.
So there is a need for these written, recorded documents,
Okay.
just to be clear.
What's the wish of council?
Motion to approve a budget amendments in the amount of $12,500 each for water and electric to appropriate retain earnings for purchase of water and electric easements at intersection of Independence Boulevard and Highway 70.
Have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion?
I just have a question. Is this an ongoing, we're buying the easements now and this will not be future?
Correct.
Oh,
We-
they're already
They're
there.
ours
Fine.
from
Okay.
here
Here on
on,
out.
Permanent.
notwithstanding the fact that we've been
Yeah.
there for a long
Long
time.
time. Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is a consideration for Recreation Advisory Commission. It's a city council appointment, and Sonja Reed has expressed interest, and she would like to serve our community. What's the wish of council?
Make a motion to appoint Sonia Y. Reed to the Recreation Advisory Commission for a term to expire on June 30th, 2026.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is a consideration of appointment to the Airport Authority. We've got two people who have been on it, and what's the wish of council?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Councilman McSwain and Robert A. Pruitt to the Foothills Regional Airport Authority for terms to expire on December 31st, 2025.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And consideration of a recommendation for reappointment to the Burke County Tourism Development Authority. What's the wish of council?
Motion to recommend Rob Winkler for consideration of reappointment on the Burke County Tourism Development Authority for a term to expire on December 31st, 2025.
Thank you, Wendy. That's a motion to have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Butch. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And that's our recommendation. We'll send that to the county, and then they'll take up the official appointment.
Next on our agenda is a 30-day notice for the Fireman's Relief Fund Board. They are set to expire next month. These reappointments will be made at the January 8, 2023?
Oh, 24.
24. Okay.
Well, that's the first time we'll write that year wrong.
Okay.
25 other times to go.
Okay. Those reappointments, we have a further handout, I believe, before us.
We
Sally?
do. One more item to bring up. We have discovered that we needed to do an appointment to the Historic Properties Commission in November, and would like to ask you to do that now. Mark Barrier has been serving on that board and wishes to continue if you would like to consider reappointing him.
What's the wish of council?
Make a motion to reappoint Mark Barrier to the Historic Preservation Commission for a term to expire November 8, 2026.
Thank you, Chris. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Chris. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Anything else to come before City Council?
I'd just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas because we won't be meeting until then, and a Happy New Year.
And I encourage everyone to come to the parade tomorrow night.
Yes.
So thank you so much. We're adjourned.
Stop it.